Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here. So y'all are actually getting a 2-for-1 special today. Basically 3 videos in the span of 12 hours. But today y'all are getting another part of 007, and you're getting this video today. Tomorrow y'all are going to be getting a TWAB time going over the subclass changes and exotic armor changes that Destiny 2 is doing. And then Friday will be another part of 007. Sunday stream, we were probably just going to do some raids. At least that is the current plan. So, oh, no. Sunday there is going to be no stream. Sunday there is going to be no stream because I'm going to be out of town for pretty much almost all of the day. So yeah, in terms of a 007 review, either it depends on how much I'm able to get through, but I'm going to say either late next week or sometime the week after. That's when y'all will be getting a review. So on that note, though, let's go ahead and get into this God of War Laufey. Now, here's what I'm going to say about it. We're only going to be reacting to the director interview because I think there's some interesting stuff here, and I'm going to be real here. This is an easy skip for me. This is an easy skip for me because of this interview. So, and it's not necessarily just because Kratos, you're not playing as Kratos in a God of War game, which is kind of insane. It's, again, like not playing as Geralt in Witcher 3, not playing as a Witcher, because Ciri is technically not a Witcher. Well, she's a Witcher, but she didn't go through the trials or anything. Or it's like playing Skyrim, but you're not the Dragonborn. Or playing Destiny 2, or like playing a Destiny game, and you're not the Guardian. But, so this is a little bit strange. Now, of course, you can do side games where you're not playing as the main character. You know, the best example is you're playing a Spider-Man game, but you're not playing as Spider-Man. So you have to do something really interesting here. So we're gonna go ahead and look at this interview. And also, holy shit. Okay, I'll just turn it down in post editing. Now, something else I have to keep in mind here is there is honestly a lot of lies in here. There are several lies in here. There is one big one in relation to the game director's length of time at the studio, which is a bullface lie. So that much. So that I will get into. I will say y'all can take a look at the full gameplay thing at a separate, on your own. Tortikovich was looked interested, but she's a fan of creatures and that sort of thing. I don't necessarily care about that in a God of War game. So unless they're cool monsters or whatever that I'm fighting, so that's something of note. We do know that the main two villains. Well, we don't know if they're main villains yet, but the two villains that you see in there are Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess of war, and then the Mongolian god of war. Which is interesting that this is the afterlife or whatever, so their pantheons killed them at some point in time, which I find to be quite interesting.
Hello, everybody. My name is Corey Barlock. I am the head of creative here at Santa Monica Studio, and I am excited to be coming here to talk to you a little bit about the God of War franchise as we're expanding out, TV, some games, but most importantly, most specifically
They don't
for
mention any of that in
today,
this interview.
we're here to talk about God of War Lao Fei. And I have the director here sitting with me that I'm going to be talking to.
By the way, she already doesn't have off to a great start because she was defending some of the decisions that Spider-Man 2 did in terms of changing how Mary Jane was looking. Now keep in mind, usually I don't really give a fuck about how characters look for the most part, unless it's semi-important to the story or whatever. They can't look ugly as fuck, but I don't give a fuck if they're super attractive or not. I don't really care. Is it a bonus? Sure, but that's not necessarily something I particularly care about. However, in the Spider-Man comics, Mary Jane is a supermodel. The point of Spider-Man and Mary Jane's relationship is that he's punching above his league, so to speak. She's a supermodel. In almost every iteration of the Spider-Man comics that I have read, she is a supermodel. She's supposed to be insanely attractive. That is a part of her and Peter's dynamic. And them changing that, to me personally, was quite scuffed. So, she said defend that there is a major piece in here, and it does happen early, that it really makes this game an easy skip for me. And not just because Kratos says you're not playing as Kratos.
Ariel Lawrence is somebody who I've worked with for 23 years.
That's a lie. That is the first lie. And they will actually call them own selves out for it. They will prove that this is a lie here in a minute.
See, she's laughing because that,
She has
my
not
God,
been
is a
working
long
there for
time.
23
And
years
obviously,
straight.
we've done different
Nope.
things throughout all of that, but we're going to get to know Ariel just a little bit in this sit down and talk a little bit about our past and what the game is that we're making here. Ariel Lawrence,
Yes,
how are you
Corey.
today?
Excited to be here.
Excited to be
Excited to be
That's
here.
good. That's a good answer.
I
That's
know
a
what
good
this
answer.
interview entails, and I'm trying to
Look, so
contain my
when did you
rage.
start working at Santa Monica? When was it?
I started working in Santa Monica in August of 2003, and I was right out of film school. I got hired to cut trailers and videos, and I cut the TGS trailer for the first God of War. And then I wanted to do more than wait tables, so I asked if there was anything else I could do around here, and I ended up working in production. And I worked on God of War 1, 2, 3, Ascension, and I was 2 years on 2018 before I took my little walkabout.
Yeah, that little walkabout. Yeah, you only worked on 2 years for 2018. So something to keep in mind here. This God of War Law Fate definitely did not get started until after Ragnarok's release. Ragnarok released in 2022. That's what I had to double check real quick. God of War Ragnarok released in 2022. This game's not releasing this year. At the earliest, it is releasing next year. At the absolute earliest. That is a 5-year gap between God of War games. This project did not get greenlit until after God of War Ragnarok. Which means she was missing from at least I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say that God of War 2018's development, we're going to say absolutely shortest 3 years. It definitely took 4 years. But let's just say, even if it took 3 years, that means from 2017 to 2022, she was completely missing. Completely missing. And that is being extremely generous. Extremely generous. Which means out of that 23 years, subtract 5 years. That goes back down to 17. She was editing videos for God of War 1. Subtract another year. Subtract another year. Before she actually started working in any meaningful capacity in the God of War franchise. So that 23 years is actually closer to, let's see, doing some math. It's closer to 16 years. It's way closer to 16 years. Now, if we're actually being realistic here, God of War Law Fate is definitely not on the scale of God of War, like 2018 or Ragnarok. So let's be real here. Probably didn't get super greenlit until 2023. So there's that. And then, of course, because there's a possibility this game is releasing late 2027 or early 2028. And then, of course, God of War 2018, it really probably took 4 years of development. That's where most games around that time kind of take. Because even if you look at Doom Eternal and Doom 2016, there was a 4-year gap between that. And 2018 to Ragnarok was a 4-year gap as well. So realistically, it took 4 years. So just on that time frame, that is actually that's probably a more realistic gap in where she was gone and not doing anything. Because like, oh, I took a little walk. What does that fucking mean? What does that fucking mean? To me, what that tells me as a player, that you had made a decent good amount of money and just decided to travel or whatever. That's not telling me, I went to some other studios, but this place that called me back. That's not what that means. That's not what that means. To me, that's not what you're communicating to me as someone that's watching this. Now, the whole 23 years is complete bullshit. Because 2023 to about being generous, 16 years. In totality, 16 years, which is a lot of time. However, the length that you spend in the studio doesn't mean shit, as I'll get into. But 16 years, that's a lot less than 23. And of course, if we're actually being realistic, you can subtract 3 more years. 2 because of God of War 2018s and some other stuff. But being realistic here, She was probably missing from 2016 all the way until 2023. That is a gap. That is a gap. That is a gap of 7 years. That is a gap of 7 years. Add 1 because of course, she wasn't really working on the early stages of God of War 1. So that's closer to 8 years. That is 15 years. Even though it's probably closer to 14. Another studio that's now failing, which is their main flagship game has ended. Well, it officially ends on June 9th. Changed game directors for a guy that's been there for a long time. Tyson Green had been at Destiny for a long time. He introduced the Portal. Just because you have been at a game studio for a very long time, to me, that doesn't communicate shit. That doesn't communicate shit. And sometimes the people that have been at certain games for a long time usually make bad decisions. I mean, look at Pete Parsons in Destiny 2. Look at Marty Stratton for ID Software. And his whole handling of the Mick Gordon situation. Because you do not know, I like Hugo Martin, but Marty Stratton absolutely screwed over Mick Gordon. And that's why Doom Dark Ages soundtrack kind of sucks. So, and that's why there was some iffy tracks in Doom Eternal, because Mick Gordon didn't mix a lot of those himself. That's why you can tell the ones that he did and the ones that he didn't. So just because someone has been in a studio for a long time doesn't mean shit. And the fact that they are being very iffy on their language tells me a lot. I cannot trust this game. I cannot trust this game. You're lying about how many years this person has worked at the studio. You are lying about that. Also, she was missing for the most important story bits to tell for Faye. Faye was at her most important in 2018. And then, of course, she was important in Ragnarok. She didn't work on either of those 2 games. She wasn't there for either of those 2 games. She was there at the early stages for 2018, but you didn't finish it out. And you weren't there for Ragnarok. So, let's just keep going here.
And then
there is going to be a chunk in here that I'm going to skip in terms of cast.
Came back home.
That's quite an amazing journey. You have deep, deep, deep roots with the God of War.
Doesn't matter.
Cutting the trailer for TGS, that was like the first.
And let's be real here. The God of War 3 director had roots in the studio. Yet he's just a whiny little bitch all the time. Yes, I don't like him either. At least, I'm not sure if he directed God of War 2 or God of War 3. Because I'm pretty sure Corey directed God of War 2, skipped 3, and then went to 2018 in Ragnarok. So, but the guy that directed God of War 3, he just complains about he complained about 2018. 2018 was great. I like God of War 3 as well. 2018 was great. Ragnarok definitely has some criticisms. Massive criticisms. And I'll get into a little bit later on where I think they should have taken a side project game.
Sort of thing that I worked on, I think, when I got here as well.
So that was back in the day when Kratos had blue tattoo.
Yeah.
And
we're still calling him Dominus.
It's still calling him Dominus.
Yeah.
Which there is still an outfit
and the team was only
named Dominus.
30, 35 people maybe? Small. Compared to now.
It was weird. It's weird to think.
Yeah.
About making games with that small of a group of people. When we were like 65 people, that's so much. And then we got to 100, that's so much.
Yeah.
Oh, what are the most memorable aspects of working on God of War, the whole franchise?
The whole franchise, I mean, I think each game definitely, left its mark or scars, battle scars. Yeah. But, it's like the studio's, just the commitment to quality and the late nights with each other trying to figure out some problem or make some magic happen in the middle of the night, or coming back in and somebody took a smoke break and, I don't know, maybe changed the boss of God of War 2. I think that might have been
I feel like that's a dig at me. I feel like I'm going to own that one because that's entirely true.
But, yeah, no, I mean,
so
every game was like a new set of challenges. Like, how do you make Titans? How do you make the trailer for the Titans come through?
Yes.
How do you make multiplayer? How do you reinvent Kratos? Where does he go?
Like the same director each time.
It's always an exciting story.
Why did you want to come back to the studio? What made you decide this is where I need to be?
The short and probably semi-uncomfortable answer for this interview is I came back for you. Definitely that bar of excellence has been in my head for a long time. Your creative voice has weighed down on some projects of mine, and I don't know. I just missed the team's commitment, just the people here. I came back for the people.
We're gonna skip ahead a little
came back.
bit
I like that. That's
because
better
this
than coming
isn't
back for me
really
because the
particularly
voices in my
relevant.
head.
Little shocked, surprised, I think, that we were going to do something different. I think when I was coming back and talking to folks, I had just assumed it would be
'Cause there's a
another
particular
Kratos game,
question
and
that I
that's
want
who
to
I would
point
be
out
telling
here.
stories about for the rest of my life. And I was okay with that. But I think finding
hold on a
out
minute.
about Faye and just
Let's go into directing. What are you most excited about in stepping into the role as a game?
things differently from a lot of different perspectives.
What about what part of you you're putting into the game?
I mean, a loving wife and mother, but she's also a warrior. She's
Hold on a minute.
and really thought things through
Okay. I think
again.
I've had
But
the
I think
question
for
before.
Faye, that was that question of, who is she? Who was this person that everybody idolized and, just stood in awe of?
Wrong. 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 I'm just gonna be real with y'all here. Ain't nobody cared about Faye enough to have her separate game. Her story wrapped up. Her story was done. Faye's story, for all intents and purposes, finished in God of War 2018. Her death, her story was finished. Was finished. What I am baffled by is they're still refusing to do anything interesting in terms of there is still a massive gap in time between God of War 3 and 2018. In terms of story-wise, there's a massive gap in time. They could have used Faye in terms of finding Kratos and that sort of thing. They could have done that route. They seem to be avoiding Greece like the plague. They seem to be avoiding Greece in any way, shape, or form like the plague. And I don't understand why. Which is why I'm guessing with this new God of War Law Fate, the only interesting stuff is going to be if they mention Greece at all. But if they mention Greece, it's going to be extremely light. It's going to be extremely light references to Greece. For some reason, they're completely avoiding Greece. And either, there's only one or two options here. Either one, they're avoiding it because they feel some type of way about that God of War, the original trilogy. Or, which is I think is more likely, they do plan on bringing Kratos back to Greece. But they're waiting until the God of War 3 remake happens to refresh and remind everybody what the story of the original Greek trilogy, so that only old fans so that just the old fans remember what happened previously.
And to really think about all the facets.
But that's
that
part of
make
taking a
up
side game. If you're
that
going to feature
person,
Faye,
right?
it happens
She's,
before 2018.
A loving wife and mother, but she's also a warrior. She's a guardian of her people. She's a rebellion leader. She's all of these things. And to be able to have an opportunity to just explore that person with the detail and the love that Santa Monica brings is just, very touching, very exciting.
What's the hardest part for you stepping into the role as a director? Is there any sort of individual parts where it's like that you feel great about overcoming? I think that's probably the more
love about Santa Monica, and it's trying to figure out how to temper those to make sure that we're being truthful to who Faye is and what her journey is on that.
So you kind of dove into aspects of design and engineering and got more educated on that.
Yeah, I think that's the fun part. I mean, that's the wonderful part about making games, is that it's not just one person, it's hundreds of people now to make it together.
Section,
and that's times and so I don't know, it keeps me busy. Never a dull moment.
Exciting, overwhelming, but fantastic. And you were doing an amazing job at it.
Appreciate
falling into the crazy fray quite well. So for the folks at home who haven't seen the announce that we've done, why don't you do a little recap? Tell us what that's all about.
Well, the game reveal that we just showed, hopefully everybody's gotten a chance to see it. If not, maybe they'll take a chance right now. But we start with Faye's dead. We wanted to start exactly... sorry.
That's where her story ended. Faye's dead. That's where her story ended. And there's a major story issue that I have with this. But I want to get... There's a particular question that I'm waiting for.
That's what I want the players to feel. I want them to be...
That this is not a prequel. This is a continuation of the timeline character. I know why. I have my own answer, but I'd love to hear your answer. And why is she so compelling?
I
Why
find
is Faye
great
compelling?
connection with Faye's curiosity about the world, you know, her loyalty to her friends and family, you know, just the fact that she goes into situations that she's kind of unprepared for and kicks ass anyway. And I think that, you know,
Like, so far, she has not said anything that makes Faye unique from literally any, like, a Captain Marvel from the MCU. Or, like, she hasn't listed anything that actually makes Faye special. She hasn't listed anything that makes Faye special. Like, so far.
she's a little bit more improvisational than maybe Kratos might be. And
Which is actually just flat out wrong. Kratos being unimprovisational is so wrong. It's like so wrong. That to me tells you that you don't remember shit. That you have your own view of the trilogy. There's something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind here. If Kratos wasn't improvisational, then how come he changed from the Blades of... Like, he had Blades of Chaos, he had Blades of Exile, he had the Blades of Hades, he also had the Blade of Olympus, he also stole Hermes' shoes, he took Helios' head, he took a whole bunch of shit, he improvised on the fly. That was kind of what he was known for, just coming up with shit on the fly. And even in 2018, he picked back up the Blades of... I believe they're called the Blades of... Are they called the Blades of Chaos in God of War 2018? I don't remember. But he picks his blades back up. He puts runes in his axe. He does some improvising a little bit in 2018 and Ragnarok as well. That to me displays that you just don't understand. Like, sure, is he now more stuck in his ways? Yes. But this to me shows that you don't understand Kratos as a character, despite you supposedly having worked on God of War 1, 2, and 3. That to me shows that you just don't understand Kratos.
she's not afraid to kind of be honest and show her kind of true self and emotions on things. And I think, you know,
I would say that's just a generic. Okay, so keep in mind, I don't usually like doing this on this channel, but that's kind of just... Men are generally more closed off than women. That's natural. That's why characters that are more closed off, like Kratos, or even Geralt in his earlier stages, those sorts of characters, that's why they click with men so often, is because men generally don't, aren't in their feelings like that necessarily. They kind of tend to hide their true emotions. Meanwhile, women tend to be more expressive. So her saying that, it's like, again, it's nothing special.
For Kratos, we love him dearly, but I think sometimes he's a little closed off, and he's learning to open up a little bit more. So I think with Faye,
he's working on it. He's
working on it.
Which
but
they
I think with Faye,
understand
we got to
post
be
2018 Kratos, but don't understand
a
old
little bit
Kratos.
more.
Where is this all taking place? Like we're talking about that Faye.
Okay, but that was the important thing here. Now, while I discuss some things, I'm gonna let you see the 20 minutes of gameplay or whatever that they showed. Now, here I am going to skip quite ahead because it is literally a minute of just black screen. But okay, while this goes on, let's talk about why Faye being dead is a problem. Why they are doing Faye is a massive problem. And it makes this story super, I'm gonna do some major calls. First off, the game has to end. The game has to end sometime after Ragnarok. So, in some way, shape, or form, the time passed in Lofi or whatever, it has to pass God of War Ragnarok. It has to. Otherwise, Faye's story is just a similar thing in terms of, it was all just a dream. Like, the story just doesn't matter as a whole. That was something that was interesting about the side games in God of War, in the original God of War trilogy, so the games explored some of the history and past of Kratos rather than necessarily trying to push anything forward story-wise. So, the only way this new game can have any meaningful impact on the God of War story or lore is if the story ends after Ragnarok. And it's just my only guess, especially because Cory Barlog is creative director of the studio now and not just game director. they have to find some way to get Kratos to be involved with the Egyptian pantheon, and I'm guessing that they want to do it different than how the Norse saga was done and how the Greek saga was done, being that the gods go up to Kratos and aggravate him. This might be a situation where, yes, the Egyptian gods or whatever, the other gods or whatever, are aggroing Kratos in an alternative way, and Kratos might actively go out to the Egyptian and seemingly Mongolian pantheons, which I find would be quite interesting. And of course, there's been hints that Kratos might be going to Egypt next. Now, in my opinion, there was a better way to do this. Also, I'm gonna guess that they're not actually gonna mention Greece in any meaningful way, shape, or form. In my personal opinion, I would have liked to have seen, I think how I personally would have done a side game, if you're going to continue the time or whatever, have Atreus go over to Greece, see the damage that Kratos did to Greece. Because we still don't know if Greece has recovered from the damage that Kratos did in terms of massive floods, freeing the underworld, storms occurring and everything. We're not completely sure how Greece has healed from Kratos' damage. And honestly, how I would have done it is Egypt saw an opportunity in Greece. Egypt basically took over Greece and their gods. And Atreus goes in. Maybe he fights the Egyptian pantheon, but loses. And I think, of course, having Atreus being a little bit older, because Atreus isn't necessarily to be a god of war. And getting in Kratos involved, having him reconcile with what he did with Greece, and doing that sort of thing. And then him being involved in the Egyptian pantheon that way, because Egypt is involved with Greece at this point. So Kratos got to, pull up and square up. Now, here's what I will say. Interestingly enough, if y'all not caught up with the manga, Dragon Ball has actually done something that's more interesting than what God of War has done. In my opinion, God of War has not effectively dealt with Kratos' history in Greece. 2018 Ragnarok, just in my personal opinion, they've dealt with his personal emotions and whatnot, but they have not really dealt with Kratos' impact on Greece itself. They haven't really done anything with that. Meanwhile, Dragon Ball Super, the manga, actually has Vegeta dealing with his past directly with the Namekians in the Laurel Arc. How is Dragon Ball doing that? Kratos is more violent than Vegeta and does done some. Of course, Vegeta has done some more fuck shit, but how is Dragon Ball doing something that you have had, that y'all have had multiple opportunities to do, and basically have refused to? Because Athena pulling up to Kratos, it's just a scene. It's just a trailer scene. It's just a trailer scenes. A lot of the scenes with the Greek gods are just scenes for the trailer. They're just scenes for the trailer. And that is my problem with this whole recent era as well. Meanwhile, I love 2018, but they seem to just refuse doing anything with the Greek saga. I'm hoping that changes after the God of War Trilogy remake comes out, but to me, that makes this just an easy skip. Larger part due to when this game comes out, no one's gonna know it has any importance to the main stuff. The general God of War fan doesn't give a fuck about anyone else but Kratos. Like, I love Sindri. I like Brock. I like Thor in his God of War Ragnarok appearance. But the general God of War fan doesn't give a fuck about anyone else but Kratos. But the fact that this also doesn't feel like either era of God of War. Because God of War 3's moveset and whatnot, sure, is it nice to jump? Yes. Is it nice to do the spins and whirls or whatever? Yes. But you don't have the visual aesthetic of the Greek saga. They have the visual aesthetic of 2018 Ragnarok, but not the combo system of it, which makes it feel foreign. So yeah. And it's also seemingly not a hack and slash either, necessarily.
Their path isn't safe.
So yeah. those are my thoughts on this new God of War game. Let me know what you think about it as in the comments below. This is gonna be a game that, unless Torchic really wants me to play it, it's gonna be easy skip for me. If it comes out next year as well, keep in mind that this game's not gonna do. Well, first off, I'm gonna call this right now. This game's not gonna do super well. It's just not. We're not playing as Kratos. You will instantly lose money when not playing as Kratos. To compensate, I hope that they scale it down in terms of this not being an open world. This just being a strict, linear campaign. That's what I am hoping for. If they're not doing open world stuff, then this is a strict linear campaign, then they downscale. Because this game is flat out just not going to be as successful. Ragnarok was not received as well as 2018 was. It just wasn't. So Sony is kind of shooting themselves in the foot here, and they're relying on 2 games to basically carry them. For this game, is it going to be an absolute failure? No. But it's going to kind of be like Marathon, where it's going to have some specific lovers or whatever. But it's not going to be successful as their previous counterpart. So that is something to keep in mind here. Sony, for late this year, and 2020, what's going to carry them in 2027 is going to be GTA 6, because we all know that that's going to carry Sony at the fucking ass. And 2027 is going to be Xenoverse 3. Those 2 games are going to be carrying Sony mightily. In case y'all haven't heard of Xenoverse 3, Xenoverse 3 is, I'm calling it right now, it's going to be the biggest anime game of all time. Bigger than Xenoverse 2, bigger than Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's going to be the biggest anime game of all time, especially if they're doing it right. So that's a major thing. This year, there's no way they're releasing this year. Marvel's Wolverine, Phantom Blade Zero, 007 First Light, Halo on the PS5. Those are like games that are going to be like... The reason why Sony can afford to let go of Destiny 2 and keep pushing with Marathon is because of those games. Also, gamers are going to be extremely more selective. At least in the US, not getting too much into the economy, but the economy is going to get even worse than where it's at right now. They're going to be heavily selective on what games they want to buy. And this does not look compelling enough to waste $70 or $80, because I'm guessing it's going to cost that much. You're not going to waste that money on this game when some other games are going to be coming out. You can't be making scuffed decisions these days. You cannot be making decisions. You cannot be gambling your decisions. You cannot be gambling your decisions this day and age in the gaming space. You can't. You will not succeed as a studio if you just kind of gamble. Unless you're already an indie studio. Bungie found out the hard way with Marathon. Santa Monica Studios is about to find out the hard way with LaFay. Unless you release some trailers that confirm that Greek characters are going to be in here in a meaningful capacity. That is the only way. And I think the Greek saga is the most interesting thing that they could do with Faye. And so, and in terms of violence or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, we brought the violence. The violence is still there. No, it's not. We are fighting enemies that don't bleed. We are literally fighting enemies that don't bleed. Like I will say, that was something interesting about the God of War 2018 is even though the violence is massively cut down. I'm sorry, but if you think the violence of 2018 or Ragnarok are anywhere close to the standard, go back and play God of War 3. Go back and play God of War 3. But you do chop enemies in half or whatnot, and at least they have some semblance of viscera. Meanwhile, they just explode into glitter. Explode into glitter. Fire glitter. Turbo glitter. So yeah. I swear. It was an end though. I'm done now. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. I don't know what's not done though. I'll catch y'all on the flip side.
I can show you.